Hey, good evening, everybody. Yeah, it's about, if you can hear me here, it is about, um, basically, 11:26 p.m., if you will, right now. It is about that time. And it's just something I want to do. Just, open mic, kind of, talk about things, you know, open variety discussion, if you will. Hope you all been having a good Saturday so far, good weekend so far. If I do get up during this broadcast, I do apologize for that. My mom is currently watching while she's asleep right now. That's her tendency when she lays down on the couch to watch her shows or movies. She falls asleep because she tends to watch them when she's eating, and then when she pauses, the movie or the show, she cleans up her dish and everything, and then sets the alarm for the house at night, and then lays down on the couch. She tries to stay awake, but then she just automatically falls asleep at the end or throughout. Hold on for a sec. Sorry about that. I had a little itch in the ear. Got to get myself a haircut down the line. But yeah, basically, is a check stuff here. Pretty sure you can hear me. Pretty sure you can hear me. Pretty sure you can hear me. Yeah, there we go. Just making sure. Yeah, but like I said, she just has a tendency to do that. you know. Anyway, though, as described, you know, here, basically as described, here, if you will. If you guys have, and if you guys want to chime in on anything here, that's up to you. There's just some things I wanted to talk about. You know, just talk about it, get off my chest, if you will. Just get your thoughts overall on it as well. But just some things to start off with. First of all, I do want to say this, which was a huge surprise to me because I didn't even know that they had done this. I didn't even know they did this. But apparently, the Sonic the Hedgehog Wild Brain channel, the Sonic the Hedgehog Wild Brain channel, actually uploaded some recent. Now I don't know if they. Well, obviously they've been doing this for a while, but to me it's kind of new that they've been recently uploading a lot of Sonic SatAM episodes in 1080p full HD, and we're not just talking. We're not just talking. You know, if it pops up here, it's almost in. It's basically in 4:3, but it's a little widescreen 4:3. It's a little wider than, let's say, you would watch Hasbro Pulse's broadcast uploading the Transformers at GI Joe. It's a little bit more widescreen, like a little bit more almost full screen, if you will. And which is crazy because the Paramount one, the Paramount Plus airings of these episodes are in full screen. And last time I checked, they're kind of in full screen. But what's interesting, though, like I said, is the fact that, recently they've been uploading a lot of Sonic SatAM, a lot of Adventures, and a lot of Sonic Underground in 1080p. Now, previously, when they started uploading the episodes, it would mainly be like in 480. Then they would wait a bit, then they'd upload the same episodes into 720, and now they're doing it in 1080. And this is all across all their YouTube channels: the Sonic the Hedgehog channel, the Retro Hero cartoons, the cartoons for everyone, if you will. I think they have been uploading them all across the board. They've been uploading them all across the board. And I think it's every few years that they do it. Every few years that they do it. And what this kind of tells me a little bit, folks, is, it sounds like, if in my opinion, it sounds like what they want to do, not want to do, but what they're doing basically is they're testing the ground, testing the. Hold on for a second. But they're, I guess, testing the audience, if you will, to see if they would enjoy watching a full HD, FHD, if you will, 1080p Sonic the Hedgehog SatAM season or a complete series, which tells me they're probably not just testing that out with folks, but they're also, perhaps preparing for the announcement we all want to hear, which is, Discotech releasing Sonic SatAM on Blu-ray. Now, I'm not saying that's entirely true or anything, but it's a possibility. It is a possibility to really look at. Because here's the thing: why all of a sudden, instead of just keeping it at 720 HD, why suddenly decide to remaster them at 1080p and make them look just as clean and crisp as they ever have? Now, here's the thing: I'm no stranger to seeing them. I'm no stranger to seeing them. Basically, be viewed so clearly, be viewed so vibrantly, if you will, because, as I've mentioned before, basically, if you take a DVD and you put it into your 4K UHD Blu-ray player, which is connected to your 4K television, or if you're lucky enough to have it in a 4K television, you get the image pretty much converted to be shown in 4K, in a 4K UHD format. That's what you get. Hold on for a second. But that's what you get. Right there, you get it. Basically broadcast, converted, if you will, and showcased, broadcast, if you will, in a 4K format. And basically, what is it? 34. I think it's. Hold on for a second. I want to make sure. Excuse me there. Here we go. It is 3840 by 2160. So basically, you're getting the image broadcasted through your 4K HD player to your 4K television or 8K television, not in its traditional resolution, but in 4K resolution. So instead of the 480, the high 480, if you will, 720 bit rate that the DVD is in, not the television resolution, but the high resolution, if you will, you now get it, more brighter and bigger and more cleaner than it's been. Hold on for a sec. What? Be right back. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. Oh, you got the movie David White at Arcade and Toy Channel told me he got the new generation movie. I haven't seen it physically, but obviously you must have got it digitally. Um, but anyway, like I was saying before I was interrupted there, I don't know if I was drinking some 7 Up. Um, like I said, I'm not, I'm not totally surprised by I'm not totally surprised by um, basically uh, the resolution or how good the image looks, even uploaded to the YouTube page at 1080p. Because, like I said, when I would play the DVDs in my 4K Ultra HD player, basically it takes the image and converts it to basically 3840 by 2160, basically to 4K, and it looks a lot crisper and cleaner than it ever has. Hold on for a sec. Let me just adjust the thing here a little bit. But like I said, it's viewed. Hold on for a sec. Just trying to adjust this. There we go. But like I said, it's basically looks like it's brand new. Basically, the image looks crisper and cleaner, is what I'm trying to say, because it adds more pixelization to the image. So, what I'm getting from here, basically with WildBrain uploading. Oh, it says David says he's getting it for Christmas from eBay. They had the DVD copy of the movie. Well, basically, somebody did what I did. um, well, not exactly like I did. I recorded it off the Netflix service off my cable box. Obviously, someone must have downloaded it and found a way to burn it to DVD or basically capture it when it first came on Netflix, and then did it that way. So, hey, either way is good, because just like I experienced about a week ago, earlier this week, when the internet goes out even for a couple of hours and you're in the mood to watch something like New Generation, you know DVD is one way to go. You know, but getting back on topic, like I said, basically, it makes me really think if maybe them uploading all these episodes, of Sad AM and Underground, along with Adventures, you know, upgraded to, in an upgraded 1080p format, it makes me really curious if perhaps they're prepping everybody and getting everybody ready for that discotheque announcement that we all want to be made, and that is Sad AM coming to Blu-ray. Because it only takes one disc to put the entire series on, but if they probably want to spread it out, make it look a little bit crisper and cleaner, then there is a good chance they could do 2 discs. And the second disc could have the rest of the episodes, and the as well as some bonus material, to go along with it. but yeah, it's kind of it's kind of interesting. Like I said, that they're doing this right now. Excuse me, and I can't wait to see maybe what comes of it in the near future, if you know what I mean. Can't wait to see what comes of it in the near future. But you know, I think over time with technology, as it is, with technology, as it is, that it was only a matter of time, in my opinion. It's only a matter of time for this kind of stuff became a reality. That's the way I look at it. That it was just a matter of time with technology evolving that this was going to be a reality. If you get what I'm saying, because when you when you really get down to it, when you really get down, a no brainer saying, you know, it's a no brainer for Hasbro to, well, not Hasbro, but for um, for um, I'm trying to think. My brain's going blank here. It's a no-brainer for Shout Factory to do the same with the likes of Transformers, GI Joe, Gem, Mask, if you will, all the Hasbro shows. That it's a no-brainer to do the same with them, because basically what it does is, it you know you have that extra space, and with that extra space, to go along with it, you know it ups the bit rate. It doesn't. And here's the thing. Here's the thing where people kind of confuse me a little bit, as I've talked about before. You know, I'm not talking like a full remastering. I'm talking basically, the more gigabytes and terabytes you have on a disk, the more better it's going to look. Period. There is no denying that. The more space that's available to it, the clearer it's going to look, and that's a fact. That is a absolute fact, if you know what I mean. Because you know when you look at the fact that even shows of the past that are getting the Blu-ray treatment, even occasionally the 4K treatment, you know, you look at those shows and you look at the fact that even if the people putting them out on those kind of physical medias have access to the film prints or the work prints, and they're taking their time to digitally remaster them, one by one, throughout, throughout the work week, if you will, just to get them out there to us, either digitally or physically, in that format, you know, and you wonder, like, from a physical standpoint, why is, let's say, the original Star Trek, that's on Blu-rays, on multiple disc Blu-rays, which I do have. I have the complete series. Why is it on multiple 4K discs? Why isn't it all just crammed together? It's because basically it's because they have, that being Paramount, has access to the original film prints of the show, so they're able to remaster them and clean up, certain details that need to be cleaned up, you know, add in, add in or clarify certain effects that went missing and stuff like that, so that when you see it, it feels like, even though it feels brand new, even though it's a show from the 60s, it feels more fresher and newer and more crisp and cleaner at the same time. And that's why I think over time, as technology gets, more better at what it does, you know, as technology gets more better at what it does, more evolved, if you will, at what it does, you know, it, like I said, it's a no-brainer for any studio, independent, distributing, major, whatever, to look at something like Sonic Sat AM and say, hey, we have the technology now to put this out in the highest clarity it's ever been in, the cleanest definition it's ever been in. And to see it, right now as it is, with episodes like basically the most recent ones they put out, besides the Antoine episodes, Fed Up with Antoine and Ghostbusted, the ones they put out before that, a few days apart from each other, is the two-part, is basically is mine and everybody else's personal favorite, the two-parter Blast of the Past. And it looks great. I mean, I'll admit, kind of little ego here. I'll admit, when I play the physical disc on my 4K player on my 4K television, it looks just a bit cleaner because it's being shown in 4K. It's being, the image and stuff is being bumped up to 4K, if you will, not remastered, but bumped up to the 4K resolution. I'll admit the physical version on my 4K television through my 4K player looks a lot better, just a bit. But to see the effort that Wildbrain is doing here with them to make this happen, and thank you, David, for the compliment on the videos. But just to see, people like, like like Wildbrand. It's late. I do apologize. Come out and do this. I truly appreciate it. I really do. I just truly appreciate what they're doing, because they're realizing, just like Discotech, who they're probably working with to potentially release Sat AM on Blu-ray, because that seems like the direction they're going in, since we're heading into the 20th anniversary of the show itself next year. I appreciate the effort that they're doing here by giving us pretty much basically a sneak peek at what's to come when we physically have it, in our hands. So I appreciate that effort. I really, really appreciate it. And I cannot wait to see what they do. Excuse me, my finger just hit the mic there. Not the mic, but the earpiece there. But I cannot wait to see, what they do in the near future with, Dulcie. Dulcie's the next episode. I think that's an underrated episode, and I can't wait to see how that looks. But then, of course, what's after that? The Void. That's a good one. That's the prelude to the Doomsday Saga. Then we got one more Antoine episode with 2 Antoine shorts. And then, of course, the Doomsday Saga itself, which I cannot wait to see what that looks like. I mean, again, I already know what it does look like because of my 4K player and 4K television, making it look very crisp and clean as if it's new. But I can't wait to see how, what they bring to the table in the long run, themselves. I cannot wait for that. To me, that's just that right there. I'll tell you, when the day comes, and it's coming soon, there's no denying it. When that day comes, that Discotech finally announces what we've been waiting for them to announce, and that is the Blu-ray release of Sonic Sat AM, along with Underground, despite how you feel about that. That right there, from a Blu-ray selling standpoint for them, for Discotech, and by extension Wildbrain, is going to be a sellout. It'll be a bestseller, in my opinion. And again, you got to think of it this way. They got a new series coming out, on Netflix, Sonic Prime, in December. The timing couldn't be better. In conjunction with Sonic Prime's debut and its focus on the multiverse, what better way to kind of collaborate that, debut and celebration of that debut than to release not one but two shows that take place in different universes that involve Sonic. So I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool that they want to do that. Um, I think that's kind of cool that they want to do that. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that right off the bat because, just in case some of you may or may not know, Wildbrain is re-uploading the episodes of Sonic SatAM Season 1 and 2, but now they're re-uploading them in 1080p. So you're going to have your choice of formats on the main Sonic channel or some of the Wildbrain channels here on YouTube. To watch Sonic SatAM, either in 480, the traditional standard way it was for broadcast, 720, or now 1080. And obviously, the next step after that's going to be 4K. Can you imagine in the next couple of years, maybe next year, can you imagine in the next year? And my friend's just telling me he's saying did a karaoke song of cover and singing of a song "Unmerited Love" by Cecil Pearson Jr., who's a pastor and preacher. That's kind of good to hear. Just got to be aware of copyright, my friend. Just in case, you got to be aware that the YT doesn't copyright you on that. Just be careful there. But it's good that you want to explore other content for your videos, if you know what I mean. But anyway, like I said, can you imagine the next couple of years, maybe even next year, Wildbrain re-releases, I should say, or re-uploads the Heads or Tails pilot episode along with Supersonic, but this time in 4K. Can you imagine next year or the couple of years that happens? That'll be something like, oh my God, we're actually seeing a 4K upload of the series, from an official source, if you will. But yeah, like I said, I just wanted to start off by mentioning that because I'm not really sure if any of you knew about it. Another thing I want to bring up, because somebody commented on this on a video, I think. They asked me a question, or asked somebody a question. It was when I did my, I think it was my 40. Oh, yeah, what was this? Oh, it was it was one of my posts. It was one of my posts I did back in July. Basically, Zach G asked Derek Bankofer or Derek Backofer and I guess myself, he wanted to know our question on something. And that question Zach G had was, if we think Tango from Sonic IDW Comics should be Tails' new and official love interest or girlfriend, and if you think about it, she might have a bit of a crush on him. Well, here's the thing. I've tried to stay up to date with the IDW books. I've been reading the ones on and off that Frank Hill sent me. Of course, I've been working, so when I get home, I'm a little tired, and I just like to do my own thing. But I have been reading off and on. Like I said, I have been reading off and on the the stories. And Tangle, to me, here's my thing about Tails and him being shipped and everything. I think honestly with Tails, it's kind of up to who you feel he'd be more comfortable with, honestly. Because as I've mentioned before in some recent videos, if you look at some of the stories on places like fanfiction.net, maybe even adultfanfiction.net or whatever, basically some of the artists, or not some of the artists, but some of the writers, they give Tails, honestly, they give him a variety of love interests. There is no denying that. They give him a variety of love interests. And, you know, they they don't just and his thing, it's how do I put this? How do I put this? It's not just, him being given a different variety of love interests in these stories. It's the fact, honestly, honest to God, it's the fact that they take it. They honestly take it, and this is a fact. I'm not going to say any writers' names because I've mentioned them in reviews and stuff, but they have basically taken tales in some of these stories and put them with different female characters, and they went to a whole new different level. Honest to God, they went to a whole nother level with tales, and that's the truth. And if you want to know what I mean by whole nother level, let's just say, as good old JR once said, Jim Ross on WWF television, WWE television, and I think occasionally on AEW. Basically, the situations the writers would put tales in are more along the lines of put the women and children to bed, kind of deal. Yeah, it's that kind of situation, and sometimes they do justify. They do justify the reasoning for it, like narrative wise, they'll say it's another universe, an alternate universe, alternate time, whatever. Or they'll say, to justify it, it's years in the future and certain things have changed and all that. And Tails is now of age and all that. So, they find ways to justify it. And I'll tell you this, some of the scenarios, oh my God, they can get it. Not only do they get very descriptive with the moments, the intimacy, if you will, the very adult intimacy, but man, the way, depending on the story, they make they make you want to laugh sometimes. They really do. They make you really want to laugh because it's like, oh my gosh, what in the world's going on here, right? Like for example, one story that somebody's doing, and I brought this up, and I'm going to look this up right now. I'm going to look this up right now. The one story somebody did, the person was called Tails Rules, and the Girls Drool. So it's one big name. And they have a story. They work on other stories as well. But they have a story, if you will, where basically Tails is, you know, Tails is a, how do I put this? Tails is still kind of young, but it's kind of like in between, I would assume between, the age of, consent and all that. Anyway, long story short, this story involves, it's called Miles and the MILFs. You heard me right. It's called Miles and the MILFs. And basically, the way they have this written out or typed out is Tails does not, honestly, does not want to go through with, really doesn't really want to go through with any of this. But he always gets reminded that he made a vow to help those out, to help his friends out, to help those in need. So, as a part of that vow, it obviously means doing things that he may not be comfortable with, but once he gets into it, he gets more than comfortable. In fact, sometimes he might even get to the point that he likes to take control. And the MILFs that are involved in the story so far, that he's kind of seen action with, are Bernadette Hitchcock, Sonic's mom from Archie Comics, Vanilla Rabbit from the Sonic games, Sonic X and the comics, and recently Alicia Acorn, Sally's mom from the comics, Queen Alicia Acorn. And I'll say this, each and every one of them have had a different scenario going on when it comes to Tails getting intimate. Bernadette is like basically turned into a, come on in, let's get it on right now kind of deal. Very, I'll put it this very, very, like, if I weren't married, you'd be the person I married kind of deal. Vanilla, basically same way, but Vanilla is more along the lines of she's at that stage where she wants to basically breed again. And Tails is put into a scenario where he's basically made the breeder. And then Alicia basically is just, unsure of herself right now because she doesn't think she's that attractive anymore. Her husband physically can't give her what she wants. So Tails basically has to be the one that wakes her up, reignites that fire. And as a result, each and every one of them want more from him. They want more time from him. They want more intimacy with him. They want more fun. And some are willing to take it to another level. I mean, Bernadette, basically was planning in the recent chapter to be covered completely in whipped cream and maybe do the same for Tails, and they become one big whipped cream dessert together, or whatever the case may be. So here's the thing again. Tails, with these kind of stories, is a little reluctant, but he goes and does it because he's that kind of a person. He's willing to help, and it makes you laugh because he's just so awkward about it. It's like, oh, I don't know, I promise this, I do this, and what makes it even more funny is he has to make up excuses. He has to lie. He sometimes has to make up, what he knows is very pathetic excuses just to go and do this stuff, just so his mom doesn't find out. And apparently the next MILF on the list for Tails to get it on with will be Mina Mongoose's mom, Isabella from the comics. Mina Mongoose, however you pronounce her name. Her mom, who's also a character from the comics, her mom is Isabella, and her mom's on the Royal Council. This kind of takes place in a similar alternate universe, identical to the Prime universe in the comics, in the Archie comics, that is. So anyway, Isabella's going through a similar situation as the other three ladies. Whatever's going on is making them want to get, action. They want satisfaction. And what's so funny about it is how Tails is convinced to do it, by those that, approach him to make it happen. Because again, he's just awkward about it because now he's got to think, okay, if I agree to this, I got to make up another excuse to my mom as to why I'm leaving so early or why I'm doing this, why I'm doing that. I got to make up another lie. And he doesn't like that because even though he's doing basically the right thing, it's, pretty much he's always been told, and he kind of knows in his heart is sort of right. He knows he's also doing wrong by lying to his mom. But what's interesting about the story is Tails basically is revealed to like MILFs. He's at that age again, like I said, it's kind of like between consent and all that, but it's revealed he likes MILFs, and he looks at Bernadette, he looks at Vanilla, he looks at Alicia as very attractive hot MILFs, and obviously Isabella is going to be the next one. And I have a feeling, whenever this does get done, that the next person on the list, or the final person he encounters, besides Isabella being next, the final MILF he's going to have time with will be his mom. Because his mom's going to find out, and if it plays out the way I think it is, she's going to be proud of him, and then she's going to want to give him a reward for being so helpful by basically giving him the time of his life as well. That's just where I think it's going to go. But it's stories like that, to where you look at Tails being put into this situation. There's stories where Tails has his own harem, if you will. Every girl he gets it on with becomes part of his harem, and he unleashes a inner beast that just wants to claim each and every one of them for his own. You have Tails in some stories dating Sally. You have Tails dating Sticks. You have Tails dating Nicole. You name it. So he's always given different variety of love interest, if you will, or a different variety of women to be with, in these kind of stories that take it to a whole new level. Heck, he's even given, I think, some time to be, with Whisper, and even in some stories, I think even with Tangle. So again, as I mentioned earlier, it's all up to the person that writes the story. If someone like Tails being with someone like Tangle is your preference, then all power to you. And who's to say that the comics won't do that? Who's to say the comics won't say, okay, we're going to give Tails a love interest, and we're going to give him Tangle? Or who's to say, after what we saw in the recent issue of IDW Sonic, they won't say, let's give Tails Whisper? These are scenarios that could potentially still happen. There is no getting around that. There is no denying that, in my opinion. There's no denying that whatsoever. So, if you want to pair Tails with Tangle, that's fine. You want to pair Tails with Whisper, that's fine. You want to pair Tails with Sticks, that's fine. You want to pair them with freaking Shade, because she's technically still a Sega character, despite what Ken Penders may say. That's more power to you. You want to pair them with Lupe, because there is a story that pretty much has them paired up with Lupe as a love interest, and they're both in high school. You want to do that, more power to you. There's nothing against that. The point is, it's your decision. It's your decision how you want to, how you want to make that happen, who you want to see him with. I mean, I know a lot of people, honestly, if you look around, a majority of people actually prefer him outside of maybe Cosmo and everything. There are people that mostly prefer him with Nicole. And again, as I've talked about before, and others have brought up, that sounds kind of ridiculous, but I think the reason that pairing was put together by a lot of fans is because, Sonic looks up to Tails looks up to Sonic like a big brother. Nicole, in the original continuity of the book, looked at Sally as a sister, maybe still somewhat does in the retcon, on the reboot, looks at her as a sister. Both of them, outside of that, look at the other as best friends. So the way I look at it, fans obviously thought, well, if Sonic's going to be with Sally and Sally's going to be with Sonic, why not have Tails be with Nicole and Nicole be with Tails? Makes sense. There you go. And fans prefer that probably more so than anyone. Prefer that more so than anyone, and that's a fact. That is an absolute fact, and there's no denying it. No denying it whatsoever. So again, I look at the fact that if you want to pair him with Tangle, that's fine. Because again, we don't know if that may or may not happen in the books officially, or he might get with Whisper. We don't know. I mean, honestly, fans want Tangle and Whisper to be basically, brought out as LGBTQ because because to them they see the evidence there. But again, that's up to that's up to the writers, and that's up to IDW and by extension Sega to whether or not that happens. But if it does, it does. Again, that's up to them. But as far as who you want Tails to be with, that's up to you. That's your decision. I mean, if you look at Sonic Boom, they've hooked him up with Zoe. But some fans even look at the fact that they teased him and Stacy hooking up, maybe Stacy and Percy having a threesome with him, in some people's mindsets. But still, it's up to you. Whatever your preference is, it's up to you. And that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine, in my opinion. Because I'll be honest, I was surprised when I found out about Tails and Rouge being hooked up. I guess because of the chemistry in the book, in the IDW book or something. And that's okay. But I'll be honest, when I saw a lot of fans, basically hooking them up with Nicole, I should say, and explaining why it makes sense, or at least alluding to why it makes sense, I looked at that and I said, you know what? That does make sense. It does. Because in that continuity, you don't know whether or not they'll have somebody. They tease something with Nicole and, what's his name? What is it? Shade? Not Shade, but what's his name again? What's his name again? Yeah, I guess. What's Shade? No, it's not Shade. What was his name again? What was his name again? What's his name again? Shard. Yeah, Shard. Basically, they teased something with Shard and Nicole, but that didn't go anywhere, especially thanks to the retcon reboot, and I think they killed Shard off. Basically, Ian Flynn, that is, did. So, so basically, why not? So basically, why not probably do something between the two in that continuity? Because in that continuity, like I said, both basically don't really have anyone. Why not give them someone? I mean, there've been teases, of course, with each, like I mentioned with Shard and Nicole. You've had, of course, the Tails Fiona deal, Tails and Little Moon, but nothing has come of it. So why not go with Tails and Nicole, and they, complete the triad, if you will. And what I mean by triad is Sally and Sonic, Bunny and Antoine, Tails, Nicole. Why not do that? So, so to me that would make a lot of sense, honestly. That's why I kind of support it. But yeah, it's up to you. Whoever you want to pair Tails with, down the line, that's totally your decision. If you want to, like I say, pair them up with, Tangle, pair them up with Tangle. That's cool with me. You want to pair them up with Amy Rose, pair them up with Amy Rose. You want to age up Cream, pair him up with Cream, pair him up with Cream. You want to age him up to an adult in an alternate universe, pair him up with with Vanilla, go for it. Go for it. You want to basically have him, written into a story where he has a week-long affair behind one of his best friend's back with his best friend's wife because his best friend's not giving out for her, like Knuckles in one story is not for Julie Sue. And then more power to you. That's your prerogative, as they would say. But it's anybody's choice. It's anybody's choice, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in the IDW books. If they do it, they do it. If they don't, they don't. If they go Whisper instead, that's fine. That would be a surprise. Like, whoa, we didn't see that coming. That could be something that happens too. But we'll see. mostly what they do. But again, it's your choice. It's your choice. I don't think I'd be against it either way, but as long as it makes sense for them to be together and from story perspectives and all that. Okay, so let's talk about something else, guys, because I've talked about this before. Let me put my glasses back on. I've talked about this before, and I think it bears repeating. It bears repeating. And obviously today it seemed that some customers obviously do know your light's closed, but they ignore it. Even when you get ready to tell them, they just do it. And today or yesterday, by the time you watch this, because now it's past midnight, it's 12:18 in the morning, Sunday morning. You know, it seems that customers just don't understand. When people have to leave for a meal, or when people have to leave to go home, that when they close the light, when they shut the light, that means they are done. I mean, basically, it's like, let me see if I can use this for example. It's like, let's say my flashlight here is on. Okay, I'm sorry for the brightness. But let's say my flashlight's on. This is the light for the number of the register. Basically, the number is lit up by a light, right? So the light, basically, the lighted up number says, hey, I'm open. But when it gets time for us to go to meal or go home, we do that. We turn the light off, but yet people still come to the register. It's like, okay, you have the light on. That's fine. That's fine. That's perfectly understandable. They know you're open. But when you turn it off, like I just did there, and they still come, that basically says either they're not, as I've mentioned before, they're not accustomed to it. They're more used to seeing people in the line and just going with that, or the fact that they know you're closed, but they're like, you know what, I'm going to get in there real quickly. And then by doing so, they encourage others to do the same thing. Not understanding that, where you live, the job rule basically is after 4 hours each, you have to clock out. After 4.5 hours each, you have to clock out. Like, you know, with lunch, with meals, or even a short day, you have to clock out before 5 hours because you'll violate. You'll get in trouble. Or if you're there for several hours, up to 7 or 8, and you have to clock out right at 8 hours, they have to understand you're done. But yet people don't. And some people yesterday tried to argue with one of my coworkers, saying, "Oh, well, you took these people. Well, why are you closing down?" And it's like, he apologized. He's like, "Sorry." He basically comes out and he says, "I'm sorry, folks. I'm closed. I apologize for the inconvenience. I'm closed." And you know what? This is not the first time this has happened since I've been there. This has happened several times. And it even happened in my old job at Walmart. You see, people just don't get it. They just don't get it. Because, again, they go by that principle of, oh, I see those people in line. I'm going to go to that line. That line must be open. Not taking the opportunity to look up and go, oh, wait a minute, the light's off. I wonder, should I ask if that person's open still? And I will give them credit, there are people that do have the courtesy to say or ask, are you open? Like some asked me yesterday before I left, was I open? And I said no. Or before I went to use the restroom because I had to go really bad, not to discuss you guys there. And they asked if I was open. I said no because I had to go. I had to really go. So, at least there are people that understand it. Some don't. And that's what really just, gets under my skin a lot, is that they don't. But when I think about it too, I can't really blame them because the way they got the lights set up, it doesn't make sense design wise, because the lights on the register, the number lights, if you will. The number lights basically, instead of being like this, being like forward, like how you're seeing this light, instead they're like this. This is how it's designed. Like the numbers on the side, instead of being like that where they could see it right in front of them, it's on the side. What sense does that make? What design sense does that make, right? It doesn't. What they needed to do is switch it around to where the number is facing in the front. So when people look at it, they'll be like, okay, there's 9. And they see the lights open, like 9's open. Or there's 6. 6 is open. Lights on. Let's go. Or when it's off, they'll be like, oh, wait, that light's off. They may not be open. Then they go to that would be a sign to go to another register. The other thing, too, that I think they should take, my current job and any job that's like this, should take an example from my former job, is you need to have a little bit of a belt. A belt that basically, not like this, not a belt where you go like, bam, on the person. No, no, basically it's a belt that you take that's connected, like it's like, okay, how do I put this? I'll give you an example here. Like it's rolled up on one side like this, but then when you get ready to close, you unfurl it, and then you connect it to the other side, and it tells the people that think you're open, oh, that lane's closed, let's move to another lane. That's something that they need to look into, honestly. They need to look into something like that, or any company does that has a similar problem. They need to look into that, because if not, people will constantly think you're open. And I understand the customer comes first. Nothing against that. I get it. I totally get it. But the thing is, sometimes the customers have to have respect for the employees, for those that are servicing them, when they because when they see, that their light is off, they should have consideration of that person is probably on their break, or going on their break, or they're going on the mill, they're going home, or they're going to do something else that they've been asked to do. You cannot just assume, just because you see people on the line, that line's open. You can't. So something has to be done. Something has to be done from a design standpoint of turning those lidded number lights around to where they face forward towards the customer, as well as having maybe a little bit of a belt, a little clip thing that you roll out to clip from one side to the other to say, we're closed. We are closed, not taking any more customers. End of discussion. Now, I will admit, the way some of the registers at my job are designed, that's not entirely possible. It's not entirely possible, especially, register 9 where I'm at, because on one side is another register, so that makes sense there. Especially if you're trying to, check out on register, 7, and maybe even 8, and both lights are out because both people are going home or going to break or whatever. It makes sense. Hence for maybe having 1 or 2 there. But when it comes to 9, it's not possible, because on the other side you have the gift cards. You have the gift cards people would want to buy as presents for baby showers, birthdays, celebrations, you name it. So you have the gift cards on that one side. And it just wouldn't work unless they saw an opportunity to hook it up and then basically apologize for the inconvenience. That's the only way I could see it. But I think the main issue that they should do is just change the design, change that one design flaw, take the lights and put them to where they're facing forward to the customer. So that would work in a way that's better for the customer and for the employee. So that way the customer has a better idea of, oh, that person's closed. I should go try another lane. There you go. But it's just a nitpick with me, because you think they would understand people have to go home. You think they would pay attention to the news of, oh, If this person goes over their time, they violate, they could lose their job. We don't want that. I don't want that. So, hopefully folks understand, better. Hopefully they understand, in a way that, doesn't upset them. But until they do, it's just going to keep going. And I can only imagine what the holiday season is going to be like. I can only imagine. Because I know we're going to have to constantly have interchangeable parts, if you know what I mean, between us cashiers, when it comes to checking people out, because, we need to go to meals so we don't violate. We're going to have to time ourselves. We're going to have to time ourselves in a big way, like I do now, so that I don't violate any meal restrictions. And I go to meal. And, the line keeps going. But again, it's just a nitpick with me, guys. It's just something that I feel needs to be addressed, and it needs to be fixed. Not just at my job, but at other jobs to deal with it. And I'm sure a lot of you watching this right now, watching this later, or even listening to it on my podcast, audio-wise, know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, though, I just wanted to, like I say, get that off my chest a little bit, because it's a nag. It's just a nagging situation, in my opinion. Just a nagging situation. Anyway, next up, I want to kind of talk about again. I tried to talk about it earlier today, before work. I tried to do a live stream using the Wi-Fi connection from my job's Wi-Fi, as well as our next door neighbor's Home Depot's Wi-Fi, which is AT&T. I think the Wi-Fi we have at my job is Spectrum. I'm not really sure. Maybe a company Wi-Fi. I don't know, but I think it's Spectrum. And I couldn't do much with the AT&T, but with my job's Wi-Fi, I was. But I had to be in a certain area to keep the live stream going, else it would disconnect. But yeah, I just wanted to follow up on what I talked about in the video prior to this, in the live stream prior to this, about, why you need to read and give a chance to the Metamorphosized to Malleability story series on DeviantArt by Desi Arts, and that's Dezzie Arts, one word. AKA her real name being Michelle. And like I said earlier, it's because it's got just about everything you'd want in a story. It's got comedy, it's got drama, it's got action, it's got somewhat espionaging suspense, and of course it's got eroticism, NFSW eroticism, but through the usage of our main character using her powers to make her fiance feel more intimate than she's ever felt, if you know what I mean. And there are moments to where it's like, it's, you just read it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is like crazy. This is just like a crazy scenario these two are in. It's just really crazy. And like I said in the review, I think the character of Crystal, which is our main character, Briella's fiance, with her coming out as a furry, more so now because of her interaction with Briella, mostly Briella enveloping her, allowing Crystal to wear her or something like that. I think that's going to play into later stories later on, later shift chapters, if you will, later on, where I still believe Crystal's going to get, get her own dose of the power. And because she's a furry, she's going to really implement that into her fetish, if you will, and maybe even spend the whole day as just an anthropomorphic cat girl, furry girl, whatever, with Briella. And I still think we're going to get, like I said, another NFSW erotic moment between the two, a chapter shift between the two, Briella and Crystal. And I truly hope and believe that this time we'll probably have Crystal get enveloped completely, like submerged completely underneath. Not Briella, but Crystal. Yeah, Crystal. Did I say Crystal? Yeah. I say it's late. I do apologize. But like I said, Crystal, I got a feeling we're going to get hopefully something where she gets submerged completely under Briella, and then she just floats to the top, but all we see is like an imprint visage of her entire body on the outside of Briella or something like that. So yeah, I think that's going to happen. And again, like I said, it's a great series. It's a great story series that I truly think you need to check out on DeviantArt because, you know, Michelle puts a lot of effort in this. She's basically building to 250, which, from a timeline perspective, is going to be around Valentine's Day, which is where I think not only the wedding portion of the series is going to take place, but where I think Crystal around that time frame is going to gain her own version of the powers that Briella has, and then just wait for the NFS erotic moment there between the two, if you know what I mean. But it's a good story because, like I said, it's got a good origin on how she got her powers. It definitely has great character development because it follows Briella from when she learns that she has these powers to learning about them and utilizing them to her best of her abilities, to learning how to shapeshift into whoever or whatever she wants, but also over time learning how to basically maintain her identity when she's in these different forms. Because in the beginning, when she would try to be an inanimate object, like she was a blanket for her best friend, her childhood friend Elanier, one time when Elanier drank too much and she had to stay over at her friend's house, Briella became a blanket and she covered Elanier for the night. But what happened is because she was a blanket for so long, she started to think of herself as just a blanket. Like, where, like when Elanier would get up to go do something, she wouldn't think of herself. She wouldn't, basically the first thing she wouldn't think of is, or basically the first thing she wouldn't think of is, oh, Elanier must have got up to go use the restroom. I'll get up real quickly and do something and then go back to being a blanket again to cover her without any suspicion. No, instead of thinking that in those earlier chapters, instead when Elanier would get up to, I think, use the restroom, like I said, she didn't even think of anything like that. Instead, she just thought of herself as a blanket. Like, you know, where's the person she was covering? Without the person, she has no purpose. And then when Elanier covered herself back up with Briella as the blanket, Briella, thinking that she's just a blanket, was basically content now because she's like, oh, good, I got my purpose back. I got my purpose in life back. And it's only until, Elania wakes up the next day to wonder where Briella is at, to where it's not, after mentioning her name a couple of times, it snaps Briella out of her state of being a state of just thinking of herself as a blanket back to being human again. And what's interesting is the context of that too, because the recent issues, the recent chapters and shifts basically deal with that to an extent because basically we find out, as I mentioned in my reviews, the extension, because Briella would always make these little extensions of herself to kind of help out, right? Kind of help out Elanier, help out a fiance, help out around the house when she's not there. And one of them just decided to grow a conscience. But what it was is it was just basically a childhood conscious of herself that seemed to be growing up, basically rapidly growing into the adult doppelganger, evil doppelganger, or misunderstanding doppelganger, Briella, who was determined to get rid of Briella because she, the doppelganger, Mimi, as she called herself, felt that Briella had forgotten what she had promised herself as a kid if she had these kind of powers. So yeah, there's the connection there because it's during that confrontation that Mimi basically lets her know, yeah, you remember some of those times when you would be stuck in those inanimate forms for a while and you would just think of yourself as just being that? That was me making that happen. That was me, conjuring that up so that you could live out what you promised you live out or something like that. So so that's the one thing I do like about this is you have Mimi in story. You have Michelle writing Mimi, bringing up a scenario or several scenarios in the past where Briella would be stuck in certain forms and start thinking of herself as certain forms, only to be snapped out of it later by Lanier or her fiance. And this extension of herself is basically claiming responsibility for it because of the fact that she's trying to remind Briella, this is what you promised yourself if you got these powers. So where we're at right now in the story is Briella is basically taking this unexpected break because of fighting off and unfortunately destroying this doppelganger Mimi, this doppelganger of her Mimi of herself known as Mimi, I should say. And because of the damage it caused and everything around the house, she has to stay with her fiance at her apartment, and which Crystal doesn't mind at all. She really doesn't mind at all. And it's during this unexpected time off where Briella's thinking, okay, my doppelganger brought up some good points, but some of the things I said I would be if I got these powers as a kid are unrealistic. But there are some that are realistic. There are some that are realistic, if you will. And basically, what she's doing right now is she's living out one of those more realistic, attainable, I should say, fantasies by basically knowing what it's like to exist as just a plant, that's growing that basically grows from a seedling to full blown impotence, as it's called, impotence. And basically, the catch here is, when Alania comes over to see what Crystal wants to talk to her about, and I mentioned what it is in the review. You can check the review out here on the channel, which is the review of 236, known as Full Bloom. When she tries to ask Briella, do you know what's going on? And Briella doesn't respond. Ilania has to remind herself, oh yeah, Crystal told me you'd be going full plant for a while. Basically acknowledging, oh yeah, I forgot. Crystal told me that if I try to talk to you, you're not going to respond because you're just being a plant right now. That's giving yourself a mental and much well-deserved break. So that's where we're at right now, where she's basically a plant, or at least a facsimile plant, if you will, that's just blooming and everything until it's time to come back to normal and then try something else out. And again, if anybody is following the story that watched me here, that watches my channel, I should say, and and all that, anybody that's new following the story, don't worry. I don't think Briella is going to lose herself again like she's done in the earlier chapters. Instead, instead she's grown now, because that's the one thing about the story series is she's progressed to the point that she could stay in these kind of states and she can go full on plant, full on blanket, full on whatever, and not lose herself, throughout that. She still comes back to being normal again. So that's kind of where we're at right now with the story series. And again, like I said, it's building up and up and up to 250, and there's a lot of twists and turns that I know are still coming. Like I said in the review, I still think that Ilanier's boyfriend, fiance, whatever he is, Vincent, I think that's his name, or Victor, I don't think he can be trusted. I think there's more to him, but we just don't know it yet. And he might, in my opinion, have a connection to this Dr. Zettweimer getting, getting the information he needed. Now, I could be wrong, and it could be one of the two ladies working with the Duncan character that is in on the whole situation, but we just don't know it yet. But yeah, there's still some twists and turns that I think are going to be coming, and I'm all ready for it. I am absolutely ready for it when it happens. And again, as I tried to say in the live stream earlier today, yesterday, I should say, before work, I highly recommend you guys check the story out. I highly recommend it because, if you want something that I think, and I said this in the live stream yesterday before work, if you want something, if you want something that I feel, could lend itself, to, let's say, a new series on a streaming service like Netflix or Amazon or HBO Max or whatever, if you want something that can lend itself to that, then to me, Metamorphosized Malleability is that kind of a story because it has everything you want. It has every kind of genre in there, all rolled into one perfect package, in my opinion. And again, the storyline is just great. It's just really great because, again, it calls back to some previous chapters and shifts, even all the way back to the beginning, because, of the relation to what's recently happened. And will we see that again? We'll find out. We don't know yet. But I cannot wait to see more. I know if following the story for the several years that I have already, if I know how Michelle is in her posting of these stories, we're going to get another shift in chapter this week. That's what we're going to get. And then the following week, we're going to get one. Okay. What I'm saying is, I think this upcoming week, we're going to get the 237th shift chapter. And then I think the following week, we're going to get 238 and a Halloween one. That's what I feel is going to happen. And I got a feeling when we hit 240 is when we'll get another 0.5 extension. And I got a feeling that 0.5 extension is going to be the eroticness, if you know what I mean. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. She also has another series she works on annually or yearly, and basically in the month of May, called Melting Mia, which is MEI, Melting Mia. And it's a real fun story, mostly more erotic and NFSW than ever. Not ever, but basically more NFSW and erotic than, let's say, Metamorphosized Malleability, is at times. But it seems like when we get to season 3, as it seems, next May, things are going to pick up a little bit more because we have some new characters, new players entering, new challengers entering the fray, if you know what I mean. But like I said, I highly recommend you guys check it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed whatsoever. I don't think you'll be disappointed whatsoever in what you read and how good it can be. So go to DeviantArt, type in Desi Arts, that's DEZZIE Arts, one full name, and you'll see it right there. It'll be one of the top searches right there. So yeah, I cannot wait to see more of it. It's going to be a real thrill in the future. It really is. But anyway, though, guys, I just wanted to come on here, even though I know it's late. It's about 12:45 in the morning right now, Pacific time. But I just wanted to come on here and do this little live stream, open mic deal, kind of talk about a few things, off the top of my head, and just get your opinions on it and everything. Before I do go, there's one thing I do want to talk about again, and I mentioned this in a live stream, not live stream, but an audio video. If you don't think you shouldn't be watching Tell Your Tale of My Little Pony Generation 5 in correlation with Make Your Mark, think again. Because now more so than ever, you have to. Because now you have the inclusion of Sparkeroni, Opaline, and Misty. And to me, that is going to play an integral part in what happens overall. Because I think what Tell Your Tale is, like I said in the audio video, it's a bridging gap between the chapters. So if you don't think you shouldn't be watching it, you should. You should be paying attention to it because it's going to, I think, really just fill out the overall arcing story of Generation 5 for its first full season, in my opinion. And that's really about it. That's really all I have to say, guys. But let me know what your thoughts are. Give me your thoughts down below in the comment section. Like the video. Super thanks will be open and available when this is fully established, if you will. It takes time for this to get fully established and stuff. Thanks to YouTube, it takes about 12 hours or so or less. But let me know what your thoughts are on some of the things I had to say, guys. Thank you all for joining me this late. I know it's late. I know I feel like I stumbled on my words. I do apologize for that. But let me know what your thoughts are overall. And until next time, take care, guys. God bless. And I am out. I'm going to get myself some rest right now. And yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on some of the things I just said. Love to hear from each and every one of you. Get your opinions on it. And until then, I'm out.